This is the MSI MAG PANO M100R PZ White, and this is a case that MSI showed off at Computex because this is one of their first Project Zero cases. What does that mean? Well, you're gonna have to find out after this word from today's video sponsor. This video is brought to you by VIPSCDKey.com. You install Windows and you see the watermark of death. You don't need to fork out a couple $100 for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor. From VIPSCDKey.com for a tenth of the price, and you can use our code GEAR to get 25% off. How good's that? That takes that already cheap Windows key and makes it even cheaper. You place your order, bingo bango, you've got your key on your orders page, you chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. Use code GEAR for 25% off, link in the description. On with the video. The idea for these new MSI cases is they're designed to allow you to use their motherboards with backside connectors so you don't see any of the power cables to the board whatsoever. So let's do our usual thing with this new case from MSI. Let's do a build, we're gonna test the thermals, and I'm gonna let you guys know if this is worth your hard-earned money. The difference being here that we've actually got all the Project Zero stuff. Let's take a look at this case. Let's start off with panel removal. There's a little tab on the side TG panel, and you just pull that tab away and lift the side panel away from the case. To remove the rear panel, same thing again, little tab, pull it towards you, and then lift that side panel away from the case. For top panel removal, there's two captive thumb screws. Just loosen them up, but you don't need to pull the screws all the way out of the panel. You can slide the top panel towards you and then lift it away from the case. And lastly, and more interestingly, is the front panel with all of that glass is removable. And this is more like a traditional front panel in a case than one of these angled glass front panels. Basically, you just pull it. This gives us access to the case from every angle, making it a little bit easier to build. And structurally, it's all good, not much flex at all. For drive support, you can do either two 2.5 inch drives or one 3.5 inch drive and a 2.5 inch drive on this removable back plate. Essentially, you just mount your drives to this plate, slot it into the back of your motherboard and you're good to go. For power supply support, the case supports up to a 200mm ATX power supply in the bottom here. There's no fancy rear bracket to slide it in from the back, which would have been nice. You just jam it in through the side. There's 4 pre-installed 120mm fans. The ones on the side are reverse pitch fans. So these are intake, not exhaust. And there's a regular pitched 120mm fan on the rear of the case. And all 3 of these fans are addressable RGB, but they're not PWM fans, they're DC fans. Trying to save money, MSI. I see what you're doing. On the top of the case, you can do 3 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans. As for the radiators though, for liquid cooling, you can only do a 240mm radiator or a 360. 280 is not supported because of the width of the case. For this side section of the case, you can do 3 120mm fans. The thing is with this case, you can't do any radiators on the side because of the depth of the motherboard tray. If you were to do a radiator, you probably won't be able to install a GPU, so best not to do that. On the PSU shroud, you can do 2 120mm fans here, as well as another 120mm fan on this bottom removable bracket here. On the rear, you can do up to a 140mm fan, but we've got this 120mm fan that's already pre-installed. This case, because it's MATX, supports ITX and MATX boards only. You will notice these huge cutouts along the top, the sides, and the bottom of the motherboard tray because this case supports MSI's Project Zero motherboards, well, the MATX ones that is, that have rear connectors on them, which means none of the power cables will be visible in this case whatsoever, which is exactly how we're going to be building. Maximum air cooler height is 175mm. For GPU support, you've got a maximum supported length of up to 390mm. Although the trick is, if you never wanted to install the front panel of the case, you would have infinite length, but no one's ever gonna do that, right? Right? Right. The other thing is, because this is an MATX case, you can forget about vertically mounting your GPU. It's just not gonna work, but MSI has this very interesting little magnetic GPU support bracket. You can plop it on the bottom of your case and you know, it won't tip over or move around. It's kind of like those penguin toys that like never fall over, except this will probably fall over, yeah. There's an integrated fan and addressable RGB hub. It has full motherboard pass-through and it's powered by SATA power. The only issue I have with this controller is it's not PWM, except for the fan pass-through. Come on MSI, like you guys are trying to save money, but you could have just made this PWM. Come on guys. As mentioned, you've got PWM control for the fan speed for the controller. You've got 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB pass-through, so you can control the lighting with your motherboard lighting, as well as a SATA power connector to make it all work. For front panel connectivity, you've got your front panel block for all your lights and your switches so that you know your system's up and running and to turn it on. You've got your USB Type-C cable, you've got your front panel audio cable and a right-angled USB Type-A 3.2 cable. For case I/O, you've got a single USB Type-C port, a USB Type-A port, a combined headphone and microphone jack, a button to control the RGB, and a power button with an integrated power light in the center. And I bet you it's gonna be blue. That's everything I think you need to know about the MSI MAG, what is it? PANO 100R PZ White for now. Definitely not the most memorable name, MSI. I think that's the first bit of feedback I have for this case. Get a better name. All right, let's build and then we're gonna test the thermals and then I'll let you guys know if this MSI tongue twister is worth your hard-earned cash. As for thermals, what you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals they're not too bad. Remember, we're using a 7950X. This is a 16 core monster, and typically it gets quite hot. One thing I will comment about though is the top panel. It would have been good if MSI gave us the option to remove the top filter on that panel, but it is what it is. It does hinder performance a little bit, but to be honest, probably not as much as you'd expect because the GPU temperatures don't rise too much, but the CPU temperature delta is about 4 degrees between all the panels off and all the panels on. So there is that. Other than that, I think the thermals are fine. This is a very unrealistic thermal test, and most of the time you're not going to make your PC get as hot as it does when we thermal test. That's why we do it this way. It's the worst case scenario. As for all the hardware used, there's a PC part picker list down below in the description, but let's talk about this case. I'm not gonna say its name because it's stupidly long. The build quality is really good. MSI cases have come a long way. I think they've been listening to the complaints people have had with the weird cases they've made over the last few years. They've had a whole bunch of just really crappy rebranded kind of Thermaltake cases that I didn't think are any good, but this is a fresh design and something new. The elephant in the room with this case is people are gonna say, oh, they just copied the height case. Come on guys, can we be done with this? Like, who cares? It's just a case, it's just a glass box, right? It is what it is. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But I think the way they've done this is unique enough for it to make it a little bit different because the front panel can be removed in one piece and it has the glass in the front panel, so you don't have to do anything exotic to remove this glass, right? It just comes out, right? Don't you think that's better to have an angled glass panel can just pop out? I think it's clever. Much, much better way of doing it compared to the height where you have to take out 47,000 screws just to remove this angled panel. Let's just take out all of it. The cable management here is slightly different as you'd expect because it's designed for motherboards with rear connectors, but it can be used with regular motherboards. It does have cutouts for that stuff as well. So even if you were to use any other MATX board, you wouldn't have problems with this case from MSI whatsoever. I will say though, one thing that I thought was a little bit odd was the USB-C cable for the motherboard connection. They could have made it a right-angled connector like the USB Type A port that's on the front panel as well, but for some reason they didn't, and it's odd because the cable sticks out a bit. And I think if you're not careful and you're not really paying attention to your cable management, you may damage that port on your motherboard. So just take that into account. I just don't know why they didn't have a right-angled connector. It would have made so much more sense, but you know, I can't make them add stuff to motherboards if they don't want to do it. The only issue I have is that USB-C cable and the name of the case. I don't know why it annoys me, but MSI just has a habit of adding MAG or MPG. We get it, there's a series and you know, you want to like make different tiers of stuff, but nobody cares, right? Like say for instance, the King 95, that's really easy. But MAG, PANO, 100R, PZ, white, it's stupid. The naming is horrendous. MSI needs to really sort out their naming. I don't know. They kind of did it with their motherboards, but now it's just their cases, like come on. They probably have different divisions in the company. They're like, hey, let's do it this way and blah, 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 but no one's talking to each other. Sort that out. I really don't like it. It's confusing for the consumer. Other than my own pet peeves with naming, I think that the case is fairly decent value because if you're interested in the MSI, I'm not gonna repeat the name. I'm just not. It's going for around 99 US dollars or around 149 Aussie dollars at the time of filming this video. And remember, you're getting 4 included fans, 3 are reverse pitch. As well as that, you're getting an addressable RGB controller and a fan controller. It's not bad value. It's not terrible at all. There are much more expensive cases that don't have any of this. So yeah, fairly decent job MSI. I gotta say, I don't hate it. It's really nice to build in. I think if you're looking for a case with the back motherboard connectors, this is one to look at. However, I gotta say that when we did the motherboard video with the Project Zero board that we're using here a couple of weeks ago, Leon Lee reached out, and we have the Lancool 216R. So just keep an eye out for that, because we'll probably do a build with that one shortly as well. And that's just about gonna do it. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peek, we seek, and watch a video of another case review here. To be honest, I don't hate this thing. It's really, really nice. MSI is doing really, really good things with their cases at the moment, especially this one. This is probably one of their better build quality cases and best executed cases that I've seen so far. The rest were pretty average, but this one is nice. I think you guys will like it. Thanks for watching.